Yes, good morning. Back to your comfort zone, no?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. It's been weeks since I've seen you. Kevin and all, where are you? At home.
Home, ma'am.
Oh, all right. So we'll continue the revision. We're doing the revision of the chapter 5. Okay, so please take that. Open the textbook. Take page 103. Page number 103. We'll be revising perceptual constancies and illusion today. Okay. Yeah. Did you prepare the questions from this section? Not yet. Yeah. Shall we watch a video and come back on perceptual constancies? Won't sit and sleep. Did you understand anything? Lots of you know, isn't it? You know, different tones. Yes. So what are generally constancies? Perceptual constancies. It's a very simple topic. I mean, it's the simplest topic in the chapter. Constancies. And it's very easy to learn. How many constancies did we learn?
3.
7 or 8?
I'm 3.
Three constancies. Only 3 constancies. Okay, so tell me, what are constancies? Hostlers just woke up or what?
No,
Okay. Yeah. Tell me, what are constancies? Or how can you explain constancy? Not explain, describe. Yes.
Ma'am, the ability of our vision.
Louder. I cannot hear you.
Ma'am, the ability of a person to see an object as the same in brightness,
Yes.
size,
Not to see, to
size,
perceive
and
the object as the same.
ma'am,
And which are the
brightness,
constancies
size,
that we learned?
brightness, size, and shape.
Brightness, size, and shape. Any other description for constancy? It's the same.
Perception of relative styles in the spite of the changes in the stimulation of sensory receptor is called perceptual.
Okay. All right. So generally, when we discuss about constancy, it's very easy to learn also. If you know the basic definition of constancy, it's very easy to explain or describe the rest of the 3 types. Okay. So what are in our eyes, whatever images formed in our retina, like even the size of that image is larger or smaller than the usual or the normal size of the object or the individual that you're trying to perceive, we perceive it as a constant thing or constant size. Let it be size, shape, or brightness. We perceive it in a constant manner. The example, it's a very easy example given in the first one. I mean that in that video about your friend. You have known your friend so much, you know how the outward appearance of that person is. Now, suppose this person is standing very much distant from you. And your retinal, I mean, that friend's retinal image formed on your retina of the eye, it will be very small, isn't it? When you view an object or a person from a very large distance, obviously the image will be very small as compared to when the person is standing close. Okay. Just imagine this is a pathway and you're standing here. Okay. So compared to your size, the friend's retinal image is very small, isn't it? And as the distance increases, again the size will become even smaller. All right. Even though the person is standing at that distance, even though the retinal image is very small, but you perceive the person or your friend with the same constant size, isn't it? You don't perceive the person as, I mean, with very small height, isn't it? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So that is basically constancy. This is size constancy. Apart from that, which all constancies do we have? Size,
Shape and brightness.
yes, shape and brightness. Size constancy, shape constancy, and brightness constancy, which is called form constancy. Which one is called form constancy?
Shape constancy.
Shape constant.
Shape constancy.
Shape constancy. It is also called form constancy. And what was the example given in the video for shape constancy?
The clock. Yeah, the clock.
Looks the same.
Yes, louder, louder.
Clock.
Louder.
Clock.
Clock. What happened to the clock?
Clock looks the same.
Clock will be the same shape. That's because of the shape constancy. Even if it is tilted a bit, we view it as an oval shape. The retinal image will be of an oval shape. Okay, but still we know that, or we perceive it as of a rounded shape. That's because of, oops, that's not a round shape. Anyways, we perceive it as a round shape, and that is because of shape constancy, also called form constancy. The same case with the brightness. Under any form of illumination, illumination means
Light.
light. Under any form of light or under any colored light, we get different types of brightness. We perceive it as a constant thing also. Like we perceive the constant color or brightness for that particular object or a person that we are viewing. Okay. So these are the constancies related to the visual field. Generally, we consider it as visual field. Constancies of visual field, but we call them perceptual constancies. Is that clear? Okay, now just take that page number 103. Devika, just start reading from perceptual constancies.
The sensory information that we receive from our environment constantly changes as we move around. Yet, we form a stable perception of an object seen from any position and in any intensity of light. Perception of the objects as relatively stable in spite of changes in the stimulation of sensory receptors is called perceptual constants.
Okay, stop there. Perception of the objects as relatively stable or constant. You can write stable or constant if you don't get that word. From the name of, from the term itself, you can describe and write perceptual constancies, which means we perceive things in a constant manner, in a stable manner, even though the image formed on the retina keeps on changing. That's the basic concept. Okay, so perception, just a minute. Yeah, perception of the objects as relatively stable in spite of changes in the stimulation of sensory receptors is called perceptual constancy. If you have not underlined by now, please underline that. It's a very important topic, perceptual constancy. Continue.
Here, we will examine three types of perceptual constancies that we commonly experience in our visual domain. Size constancy. The size of an image on our retina changes with the change in the distance of the object from the eye. The further away it is, the smaller is the image. On the other hand, our experience shows that within the limits, the object appears to be about the same size, irrespective of its distance. For example, when you approach your friend from a distance, your perception of the friend's size does not change much despite the fact that the retinal image becomes larger. This tendency for the perceived size of objects to remain relatively unchanged with changes in their distance from the observer, and the size of the retinal image is called size constancy.
Okay, underline that last sentence. So as distance increases, size increases or decreases? I mean, retinal image size.
Decreases.
Huh?
Decreases.
Decreases.
When the size decreases.
I can just hear. As distance increases, size decreases or increases?
Size decreases.
Ah, okay. Size decreases. The image gets smaller. All right. So next one, shape constancy. Abhiram, can you read? Shape constancy, second one.
Perceptions, the shapes of familiar objects remain unchanged despite the changes in the pattern of retinal image resulting from differences in their orientation.
Underline that
example,
sentence. In our perceptions, the shapes of familiar objects remain unchanged despite changes in the pattern of retinal image resulting from differences in their orientation.
For example, a dinner plate looks the same shape whether the image that it casts on the retina is a circle or an ellipse or roughly a short line with the plate is
It's also called
also called form constants.
form constancy. Okay. Here the example given is that of a plate, circular plate. Okay. In the video we saw about a clock. Okay. Next one, Mary. Brightness constancy.
Visual objects not only appear constant in their shape and size, they also appear constant in their degree of whiteness, grayness, or blackness, even though the amount of physical energy reflected from them changes considerably. In other words, our experience of brightness does not change in spite of changes in the amount of reflected light reaching our eyes. The tendency to maintain apparent brightness constant under different amount of illumination is called brightness constancy.
Underline that. The tendency to maintain apparent brightness constant under different amount of illumination is called brightness constancy.
For example, surface of a paper which appears white in the sunlight is still perceived as white in the room light. Similarly, coal that looks black in the sun also looks black in the room light.
Room light. Okay, depending on the lighting, the black objects, means the objects that are colored black, it might appear gray sometimes. But still we perceive it as an object with a black color. That's because of our brightness constancy. Okay. So the topic was perceptual constancies, and we learned, or rather we revised, 3 types of constancies: size, shape, and brightness. So as I told you, even though you don't know the exact definition of the 3 constancies, you can easily write from the main definition. You can just change the terms and give, depending on the size, depending on the brightness, and depending on the shape. Okay, and you can easily give examples also, no? Yeah. So when you get a question, depending on the marks, you have to write the number of sentences. You have to describe and write if it is a 3 marks or 4 marks question. Okay, if it is a 2 marks question, just give the definitions with 1 example. That would be more than enough. Okay. So any doubt in the topic? No. All right. So next one, illusions. We'll do one thing. Just write some questions and keep from that section. Perceptual constancies. What are perceptual constancies, or define perceptual constancies? Define perceptual constancies. Then how many types of perceptual constancies are there, and which are they? How many types of perceptual constancies are there and which are they? Then describe size constancy, shape constancy, brightness constancy. Give examples for each. That's it. Okay. Next portion is about the illusions. Remember, we discussed about the illusions and hallucinations, the main differences. You remember? Illusions, hallucinations. How are they different? How are they different?
Ma'am, hallucination is something that's completely not in the environment at the moment, and
Mike.
ma'am, illusions are, hallucinations are something that's not completely not there in the environment at the moment, and it's like you're fully imagining the whole scenario.
Mm.
And illusions is something that's partially there, like you see a rope as a snake or something.
That is, rope as a snake is
Is illusions.
illusion. So in illusions, dash are present. What are present?
Stimulus.
Stimuli are present. Okay, so always in illusions, you have to remember stimulus, some or the other stimulus would be present. Here, this would be absent. In hallucinations, it would be absent, which means you're completely making it up. Okay, making it up in the sense your mind is making it up. All right. So in illusions, as Kevin said, that's the same example we discussed in class, no? I think that's the same. Yeah. When you see a rope on the floor, you perceive it as a snake. That is an illusion. That's not a hallucination. How would that become a hallucination, seeing a snake?
If there's no rope also.
Yes. If there is no rope out there and still you see a snake on the floor, then that is a hallucination, which means it does not have a stimulus there. Okay, when a stimulus is present, it's always an illusion. So they are called misperceptions. You were supposed to perceive that object on the floor as a rope, but instead, what did you do? You perceived it as a
Snake.
snake. Yes, perceived it as a snake. So that is misperception. You perceived it by mistake. Okay, so let's see that portion. Page 103. Who would read? Abhilash. 103. Illusions.
Our perceptions are not always veridical. Sometimes we fail to interpret the sensory information correctly. This results in a mismatch between the physical stimuli and its perception. These misperceptions resulting from misinterpretation of information received by our sensory organs are generally known as illusions. These are
And
experienced.
underline that these misperceptions resulting from misinterpretation of information received by our sensory organs are generally known as illusions. So, our sensory organs, they receive some form of information. And what do? We misinterpret this. And this would finally lead to what? Misperceptions. This is known as illusion. This misperception is known as illusion. That's the definition. Okay. So the information received by our sensory organs, they are misinterpreted, which results in misperceptions in our perception. Okay. So that is called an illusion. All right. Understood? Okay. Continue.
These are experienced more or less by all of us. They result from an external stimulus situation and generate the same kind of experience in each individual. That is why illusions are called primitive organizations. Although illusions can be experienced by the stimulation of any of our senses, psychologists have studied them more commonly in the visual than in other sense modalities.
Please be a bit louder.
Some perceptual illusions are universal and found in all individuals. For example, the rail tracks appear to be converging to all of us. These illusions are called universal illusions or permanent illusions, as they do not change their experience or practice. Some other illusions seem to vary from individual to individual. These are called perceived illusions. In this section, we will describe some important visual illusions.
Some of the visual illusions. Okay. So the illusions which are commonly experienced by most of the people, what are they called? What are they called?
Universal illusions.
What illusion?
Universal.
Universal illusion. Why are you talking like a zombie? Universal illusions, which are common to everyone and which are specifically experienced by certain people. What are they called?
Personal.
Personal illusion.
So
There are different categorization for these types of illusions, but generally we categorize them into universal as well as personal. But in this section, we have learned about visual illusions. Okay. You remember any of the names? Illusions? I know there were weird names, but still, a simple one was there. This one.
A vertical,
Geometrical.
horizontal,
Vertical, horizontal. Then the arrows.
and Malalaya.
What was that?
Malalaya.
Malalaya illusion. And one more phenomenon we learned. Remember 5 phenomenon? The Christmas lights, one LED lights. 5 phenomenon, and that was coming under the topic apparent movement illusion. Okay, there were 3 types of illusion. Just read that and come, and we'll discuss that in the next class. Okay, so from that section, you have to write the question: what are illusions? Define illusions. What are universal illusions? What are personal illusions? 3 questions. Clear? Okay. I'll see you in the next class. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.